We're coming to you from day 2 of Ohio State spring football. Day 2 of 15 of essentially what has turned into OTAs. I'm Stephen Means. That's Stefan Krajisnik, and that's Andrew Gillis. I watched the quarterbacks again. Stefan, you watched the defense today. Andrew watched the offense today. Stefan, I think the most interesting thing that probably came out of the defense today is this idea of what do we think Ohio State's best look at cornerback is, and is that potentially moving Jermaine Matthews inside the nickel?
Yeah, Ryan Day talked a lot about on Monday, the first day of practice, versatility as it pertained to the offensive line, as it pertained to, Brandon Ennis maybe getting some handoffs, like things of that nature. He wants players to be versatile. So we saw Jermaine playing a good amount of nickel today, and how much of that is versatility and just kind of want him to be ready versus how much of that is maybe something we could see. And it got us talking, off camera a bit, and now we're bringing it on camera of, if we think Jermaine Matthews is obviously one of these team's 2 best corners, or defensive backs, corners, whatever you want to call it, like what is the best combination of 3? And if you think it's Davison, Jermaine, and someone that's not Lorenzo Styles, then what do you do with that nickel position? Do you move Jermaine into that slot role and have Devin Sanchez or Aaron Scott kind of battle for that second role, on the outside while you got Jermaine play nickel, and then when you take the nickel off the field, instead of taking Jermaine off the field, you just move Jermaine back to the outside? Like, is that your best combination of 3 guys, Davison, Jermaine at the nickel, and then Aaron Scott or Devin Sanchez competing for that other spot? So I think it's an interesting conversation. I think if you were to say right now, like, in terms of talent, who are the 3 most talented, right? Like, that's probably the direction you go, of having someone else like Aaron Scott or Devin Sanchez play with Davison or Jermaine. Like, that's probably your most talented trio. Now, if you feel more comfortable with Lorenzo staying at nickel and Jermaine and Davison on the outside, then we're kind of back to square one of where we thought this defense was going to be going into spring ball and beyond. But if you really want your best 3, and Devin or Aaron Scott is really coming along and you think they're playing better than Lorenzo Styles, then it's a whole different conversation. And I think that's why maybe we're seeing a bit of Jermaine at least getting some reps at nickel to see, make him as comfortable in that role as you can be.
This is the second spring where we've seen Jermaine taking those reps at nickel. He did it a little bit last year as they're trying to just find depth behind Jordan Hancock. They did it in fall camp as well. Never did it in the game, though, obviously. Though, actually, he might have done it against Nebraska, but I don't remember offhand right now. But if it's been 2 years of this development, and it's been getting to this moment where now you're putting yourself in a position where you have options at that nickel spot, whether it's Jermaine Matthews, whether it's Lorenzo Styles, and then as you're talking about, maybe you let Aaron Scott and Devin Sanchez duke it out for the other third cornerback spot. I like that. I like that idea, and that's why you try stuff like this in spring. Andrew, you watch the offense. What do we make of the offensive line right now through 2 practices?
There's not a lot to make of the offensive line through 2 practices. It was funny, like, Stefan, like, I had the defense on the first day, and Stefan today got to come in with Jermaine Matthews, slot corner, and we got to have this, like, whole thing. And I'm just like, I don't know, C.J. Donaldson looks pretty good. And I'm, the 4th receiver competition between Bryson Rodgers and Mylan Graham is going to be intense. So there wasn't a ton to take in terms of, wow, this guy's working with the ones, or this guy's working with this group, or this guy's working with that group. It was a lot of mixing and matching. But the offensive line, right now, they still have Austin Sareveld at left tackle. That was still what we saw today. Like we discussed on Buckeye Talk, and I think we sent this out to our texters, I think this is just, they're trying to develop more tackle depth. That is probably the one position on the offensive line where you would look at and say, all right, maybe they're not as deep. I think they're trying to develop different players as tackles. I think you look at, where you're at, like Ethan Owenyawa, like Ryan Day said, he's at 357. That's got to go down a little bit. So they're working him in. You want to get some more depth there. You want to get some more options just in case things happen, because it did last year. 2 offensive line injuries hit this team, and for a while it looked like this team was in trouble. You can't count on an interior guy to kick out to tackle and play like a first-round pick for 4 games in a playoff run every year. I don't think that's a winning model. So I think you want to have guys maybe ready to go just in case, to where you could at least hold up in that situation. Maybe he plays full-time tackle. I don't know. So the offensive line, as we sit here March 19th, not a ton to take from it.
In theory, you are correct. You can't just rely on left guards to play left tackle. But I just think
we just saw it.
right now you have to just allow it to live in a fantasy world because we're literally standing in the building of a bunch of people who did it. So fine, apparently you can do these things. Quarterback stuff was more of the same as what we've seen on Monday. Is they're rolling guys. They even had a period of routes on air where they had all three throwing at the same time. Not much to take of it, and that's by design. Right now isn't about trying to find the guy at quarterback. It's about developing a bunch of guys so that they have a room full of guys and they'll take it into the summer. Though, get the text, 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. We saw a sneak preview of the first team period of the year, and somebody's got to go first, and a certain number 10 went first, so get the text. He's Stefan, he's Andrew, I'm Steven. More comments for you from the Woody on Buckeye Talk. See you.